Okay, friends, welcome to our little chat, venting, celebrating ourselves discussion. For those of you who do not know me, my name is Micah Smith, and I'm the owner and founder of Crescendo Fest. Crescendo Fest is about to be 4 years old, and it was started because I spent a number of years in the industry as an artist, background vocalist. Got to travel all over the world and perform. And I noticed that things that were offered to the white artists I performed with wasn't the same, or wasn't offered to the black artists I performed to. I also noticed there was a few festivals in Nova Scotia and across Atlantic Canada where we were not being booked. And so the only way to get better at your craft is to be on stage. And so if nobody else wanted to put us on the stage, then I had to figure out how to create a space for us to be able to perform freely, without judgment, to learn from industry professionals who look like us, because that was also one of my challenges that I'll get into later. So I started Crescendo Fest just off of going by what I think we need and what my heart was telling me and the community. And so super glad that it's sticking around. People are looking forward to it now. It's growing. And so, yeah, I'm excited to be sitting here in this capacity with all of you wonderful folks today. I want to get all of the wonderful panelists to introduce themselves, and then we'll get into some discussion. We'll start with Kaya.
Hi, so I'm Kaya Hazel. I'm a freelance radio producer based in Birmingham in the UK. So I mainly work on BBC Introducing on One Extra, which is a platform that likes to amplify artists that make black music. So not necessarily just black artists, but anyone that makes black music. And I also help to run an R&B platform that is mainly based in London, but we kind of support artists all over, called Everything R&B. And yeah, we take artists on tours, do artist development. We take artists to different festivals. We curate festival stages at different places across the UK and abroad. Mainly our biggest one is South by Southwest in Texas every year. We have one of the biggest R&B showcases, and a lot of the artists that we have brought over each year have managed to go on and get record deals.
Amazing. My name is Mobo Agoro. I am based in Glasgow, Scotland. I book a festival called Pitch Scotland, which is a multi-day showcase conference. I am also an artist manager. I have a small roster of artists, singer-songwriters, and producers. Work together with Sami Oma on that project called Up to Standard, which is essentially a production house, but also a development organization where we provide creative and professional development for young aspiring musicians and music professionals making the first steps into the industry. And yeah, really excited to be here.
Wow. Good morning, everybody. I'm Dina. You can call me Dee. I'm a few things, but overall, I'm a live event producer with my own company, Vitamin D, and I am the production coordinator for NSMW as well. I've been putting particularly black artists on stages for the past 6 years or so, starting in the youth, underage space, kind of graduating through that, and community collaborator, advocate, sitting at really interesting tables, been on boards and committees, and just a community champion who loves music and wants to put our people on. So it's me.
Morning. My name is Judith Lynch. My official title is executive producer for evening radio at CBC Music. But during COVID, I created and launched a show called Block, which is dedicated to black artists and their music. And my goal for the show was basically to, previously on CBC Music, you would hear, and this is no shade to any of these artists, but you would hear your Hopsley Workmans, your Sarah Harmers, and then they would throw a Julie Black song in there. And what I wanted to do was put Julie Black in context with her peers so that she wasn't really competing,
Mhm.
not competing, but it makes a difference who you're played with and around. So that was the motivation for the block, and strategically I want to leave CBC a better place than when I started it. It's a crown white institution, as we all know, and it's not always a safe space for people of color, so I wanted to, the name of the block is, you know, it works for marketing purposes, but it's also the sign of a space that I wanted to create for future Black CBC employees to just have a place where they don't have to code switch, they can be themselves and celebrate the music that they love in the way that they love it.
I mean, good company. This is great. Okay, let's dive right in. Normally, I feel like people start with your greatest accomplishment or achievement so far, but I want to start with the challenges. Some of the challenging things, I alluded to it earlier. Coming up in Nova Scotia, we know like the history. Well, maybe we don't know the history, and that's part of the problem. But Nova Scotia has something that's very unique. We are home to 52 historic Black communities that go back over 400 years on this land. And so we are the only place in the world that has African Nova Scotians. People who came in, there were 3 different waves: the Black refugees of the War of 1812, the Black loyalists, and the Jamaican Maroons, my people. So they all came through different pathways, avenues, and they basically brought us here in the winter, expected us to die because it was so cold. But my community, specifically North Preston, we always get a hard knock. But when they came back in the spring expecting us to be dead, we had full-on communities built. There were kids running around. There was a road built, like, yeah. So there's a big history here. And we always got overlooked, outnumbered, thought less of, and sometimes, in some cases, that still happens. So when I wanted to jump into the industry side, I'm like, who are the Black industry professionals around here? Who's gonna teach me something? Where do I start? So my first mentor was not an African Nova Scotian woman or person at all. Was the beautiful Sherry Jones, who's been in the industry for a number of years, and she just sort of took me under her wing and helped guide me through and navigate. And then eventually I met Katrina. Later on found out that she was from Nova Scotia as well. And then now I feel like we're in a bit of a better place because we see Dina, there's Chevy Price with pre-consulting. And then we have like a national organization, Advance, which is Canada's Black Music Business Collective. I sit on the board for that. So I'm able to connect with a network of Black industry professionals from across Canada, which is great. So that was one of my biggest challenges because not everybody knows how to support our community, and it looks really crazy when we have people who aren't from the community trying to fix problems for the community that they don't understand because things don't happen the right way. So that was one of my biggest challenges.
I think for me, my biggest challenge was my location. So Birmingham is the second city in England, but if we're honest, it's more like the 4th or 5th down. Like, we just get overlooked for absolutely everything. Also, like, the main hub of the music industry is in London, and a lot of the time, if you don't live there, people are not going to take you seriously. You could be the most talented person ever, but if you're not like around the corner in London, they'll just overlook you. And I thought so many times about moving to London, but it just wasn't feasible for me. I also have a child as well. He was quite young at the time when I was starting out, and I just didn't want to have to uproot him and move, and then if it didn't work out, then having to move back, and it was just a whole big thing. But luckily, like, I made a few connections that kind of led me to getting the opportunities that I have now and the things that I do now, which means that I can just kind of commute with if need be. But also, to start with, like, I originally wanted to get into music when I was maybe about 16, and I've only really been working in music properly for 4 years, and I'm now 31. So there was a lot of time where I felt like there wasn't anyone that could like be a mentor, someone that I could look up to like in close proximity. But kind of when I do find a mentor that lived in London, it kind of opened doors for me a little bit more. That was a bit more helpful. But I want to be able to be that mentor for people that are coming up now and trying to open the doors for people. Whereas I didn't necessarily have that in the beginning of my journey, but I'm trying to open the doors for people, trying to build a community, especially in Birmingham. Like, there is no music industry, there's just no sense of community there at all. Unless you go to London and everything is very kind of close knit. But yeah, I'm trying to build that in Birmingham as well and other areas across the UK.
It's amazing. For me, it was pretty similar as well. I'm based a little bit further north in Scotland, and yeah, I guess my first initial barrier was geography as well. Being so far away from, I guess, yeah, the centre of music in the UK, in London, it just seemed impossible, to be honest. And luckily enough, Sammy, who I guess was my first mentor in music, already had a recording studio and a bit of a hub that I was able to go to, and yeah, just kind of made myself useful. I don't know how useful I was at the time, I just felt useful and I felt a part, and yeah, it just grew from there. But I think similarly to yourself as well, a lot of the work that I do now is very much about like creating that space and that pathway that I didn't have necessarily. And yeah, over the years as well, I was able to be a part of a program called the Power Up, which is 40 industry professionals and musicians from across the UK. We all get put together for a year. And we get to network. They take us down to London, down to Birmingham, and we get to meet like some of the local industry essentially, and that has been super transformative for myself and everybody that's been on the Power Up, because from once feeling so isolated, all of a sudden we're just one WhatsApp message away from people within the industry, and that is just, it's been very instrumental for me.
Oh my, this is a tough one for me to answer, I feel. Challenges, I'm gonna name two. And sorry for my voice, I'm very Macy Gray today. That's okay.
Just try.
I'm gonna try, bro. You see my teapot? Okay. The first one I would say is trying not to be all the things.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know about any other Black communities. I can only speak as being African Nova Scotian, but we're very multi-talented, multi-skilled, multi-gifted, and we have this sense of ownership, and we see all the gaps, all the issues, and I find a lot of times we fall into this pattern of trying to fix all the things at the same time, and it can get very overwhelming, so you run into a lot of burnout, and sometimes you can kind of feel like you're kind of giving the community the shorter end of the stick, because you can't really show up 100% in every single way. And so finding your lane and sticking to that, but also encouraging other people who can fill in those gaps and identifying those skill sets and those sorts of things. But that was a big challenge of mine for a good chunk of my career so far. Just kind of felt like I can show up here and I can still show up here and show up there, but there's not as much impact if you're really trying to break yourself up and be in 5-6 different places at once. And so really trying to find that one thing and really narrowing down that passion point that fills in that gap as well. The second thing was imposter syndrome, like really bad. I was super new into the industry. I'm an executive member on a board, I'm on a provincial council, and I'm like, I don't know what's going on. I don't know what you guys are saying. Like, what is a bylaw? Do I belong here? Am I a token? Why am I sitting here? Super in my head. And what really helped with that was there were connections that I had with people who were not African Nova Scotian, like a Sherry Jones from Micah, who made space for me at the table. And I could go to them and ask them the hard questions and things like that. There's still a lot of work to be done, but it was all kind of put on me because I'm like the active member at the table and all those sorts of things, but kind of had to break through those challenges and have those hard conversations. And being like one of the youngest people in those spaces also at the time. Feels kind of weird telling like older people out they should be running things, especially in our community of, you know, respect, and you're senior or whatever it is, and you can't say certain things and whatever. It can be hard to show up boldly in a space. Those are challenges that I had, and I would like to think I've overcome them now. I'm just gonna do what I gotta do, you know what I'm saying? But yeah, those were definitely some experiences that I had, for sure.
You essentially stole my answer. It's all right, guys. Yeah, the how I was going to phrase it.
Yeah, give us the Judith version.
Okay, there were two challenges that kind of went hand in hand. First of all, the show was created during COVID, and so I was in my basement staring at a wall, working on this geriatric Windows 7 machine, trying to build a show with people who are in their homes, you know, doing their thing. So we were just kind of getting used to the model of working separately, and having spent years at CBC, that's not how I knew how to make radio. It was more of a collaborative, in-person experience. You get in the room, you bounce ideas back and forth, and you do that thing. And now it's like, can you log on at 2 o'clock because we're going to meet, and you're just staring at everyone's heads. So that was a challenge. Took me out of my comfort zone. The bigger challenge really was leading without authority. At the time, I was a producer, which, you know, in profession, it's fine, but I was talking to people well above my pay grade and trying to convince them that this is the way it needs to be done, as opposed to however they thought it should be done. Again, during COVID times, we also had George Floyd. Everyone was looking to do things for Black people. To get the proverbial cookie, the block was a very large cookie at CBC, so everybody wanted a piece of it and had an opinion on how it should exist to serve their needs, and I had to constantly bring it back and say, no, it needs to serve our needs. So it was quite a challenge, because there's power dynamics everywhere. So I'm telling people that are my boss's boss's boss, no, I'm not doing it your way. The marketing campaign is going to look like this because this. I need a Black photographer to shoot the host, as opposed to the white photographer that they've been using for years. We're going to use this music, and you're going to pay full sync rights because I want a Black artist to get a piece of this money to do this thing. So there was a lot of challenges there, a lot of pressure, and a lot of risk. Really, like a lot of personal risk. If the show didn't land. I mean, it was going to land, but if by chance it didn't land, I was burning bridges every step of the way until launch day. And I was fully aware of that, and, you know, making little exit plans, like, you know, how do I coast to retirement if, you know, if this doesn't work the way I want it to? And so, yeah, it was a very stressful time, but 5 years later, here we are.
Yeah, we go through a lot of, we do. But on the other side of that, our successes and achievements. So let's start with Judith.